Welcome, welcome. I heard the words, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. And so I decided to wear white. I actually checked in with my beautiful co-host, Kelly Mason. I'm like, what are you wearing? She's like, I'm wearing black. I'm like, perfect. We're like the yin and the yang of the experience of death. And I actually really wanted this to feel more upbeat. So I was like, what song do I play to get everyone in the spirit? And so I picked I'll Fly Away. So welcome, welcome, welcome. There's a lot of faces I know. There's a lot of people coming in. And today, me and Kelly Mason, who are community members of Healy, are going to lead you through an identity death into some stories from our team out into a rebirth. So we're really glad that you're here. Let me look at my notes. Tiffany, could you put the slide up while I'm kind of setting up some ground rules? So there's not that many ground rules. And Kelly, if you want to unmute yourself on this part to chime in, I came up with two things came up with me. They just were thoughts that landed really hard. And the first one is what you give, you get. This is kind of a universal principle. So even if you're a guest here, if you're dipping your toe into the Healy realm, the more that you can give to this process, which means your undivided attention, you're writing in your journal, you're using the chat function, the more you're actually going to receive from this. And the second one is kind of a tangent of this first one. And it's don't just be inspired, but actually take action. Take action on something today that you find valuable. And this is the way that we plant the seeds for our new identities to come forth. So the reason that I wanted to do an identity funeral is because, gosh darn it, we all need one. And I think we feel that in the cosmos, the need to do some composting and to do some releasing. So we really can step into our authentic voice, our true note. We called it the real you, whatever you want to call it. And so what I'm going to guide us through is a practice that you could really take time with and do longer than what I'm about to share with you. And so can you go to the next slide, Tiffany? These are some of the questions as you're coming in the chat that I really want you to start thinking about. And we'll leave this slide up for just a little bit so you can kind of go through these questions quickly and get a gut feeling for maybe there's something in your life that needs to go. And since we're talking about community today, maybe it's an unsupportive friend group. Maybe it's a way of thinking. I love that life is like literally a metaphor. If you have a cluttered closet, this means something. Maybe it's an old identity or a story. And this is the way that I really tune into what identity is running the show. It's the story that I retell over and over again about I can't because, and it's usually something that I have made up in my mind. It's not necessarily true, but I've made it my truth. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Tiffany. And these you can kind of go through pretty quickly. And so Fernanda's going to come on in just a moment before we actually get into the descansos or the identity funeral. But before I do, I wanted to just kind of set the scene. So we're here in this frequency community, and my life has radically shifted over the course of the last year. And a lot of that was due to these three identities that I really had to let go in order to be in this space, to be in the energy of overflow, to be in the energy of powerful women and men, and to really keep finding my note within it. And so one of the identities that I had to let go was I know better than you. And the way this manifests can be all you rebellious spirits who are like, I'm not taking notes from anyone. I'm not taking advice from anyone. That's really how that identity showed up for me. And I really had to let that go and become teachable and become a beginner. And what do beginners have on their side? Usually beginner's luck. You have the Fool energy. You have the beginning of the tarot, right? And the second one was just your garden variety fears I had about being in community. And usually what that looked like for me was letting my shyness take over, sitting on the sidelines, and then having massive critiques. And let me tell you something that dies when you actually participate is critiques. They really go, because instead of critiques, you have solutions. And I think that's the power of community. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be Pollyanna, but you have to come and give your best, right? So these were a few of the identities that I had to let go. And actually what we're going to do during this process is an abbreviated version of who knows Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who knows her work. Yes. So she has something in her book called Descansos. And what it is that it's an act, but it's also a physical space. So if you've ever been someplace where someone's lost their life, people will come and they'll put markers, like usually a cross, there'll be flowers, there'll be all kinds of mementos. And the reason that we do this is so many, but it really does something to the psyche to mark that moment. And so this is a much bigger practice than we have time for. We're going to kind of dip our toe in, and we're going to get a little flavor of this identity death through all of our stories. And so before we get into the actual identity funeral, I'm going to ask Fernanda, who I'll ask her to unmute in just a moment. She's going to read a prayer for us. It's going to be in Spanish. And so I really just ask that you tune into this frequency. This is what this space is all about. So tune into that frequency. And then after that, we're actually going to get up and move for a minute, because where do the issues live? The first person who says it, I'm going to give them a gift. Where do the issues live? Oh, come on. I'm looking for yes, Kara. She's my team member. I love it. Okay, so the issues live in our tissues. So before we get into this death process, we're actually, for 1 minute, I'm going to guide you through just some movements. And if you can't do this safely, just tune in and move through it that way. So you can go ahead and take down the presentation. I'm going to pull Fernanda up. Thank you so much for answering this call, Fernanda. I just kept thinking of you during this process. She's going to lead us in a prayer, and then the next voice you will hear will be my voice. I asked you to unmute. There we go. You're not unmuted. Let me ask you to unmute again.
Oh, there we are. There we go. Thank you. I got happy with my finger there for a second, and I think I muted myself again. Okay, so I am really happy to be here to read this poem in Spanish. It's by Mario Benedetti, and it's called No te rindas. No te rindas means don't give up. And I found that to be the most ironic thing to be coming here to read when the topic is grief and love. But really, when you lay down in those moments of descanso, knowing that you're growing roots, knowing that you're connecting down into the depths of you, there's also this call to remember to never give up, especially while there is still blood pumping in your veins. So here goes the poem. Close your eyes. You can place your hand over your heart and over your womb and just feel into the language, feel into the emotion as I read this. No te rindas. Okay, actually, I think I'm going to go read this in my car. 1 second. Where I am, it's a little bit loud. Here we go. And of course, finding the moment of descanso sometimes takes a second. So here we are. No te rindas. Aún estás a tiempo de alcanzar y comenzar de nuevo. Aceptar tus sombras, enterrar tus miedos, liberar el lastre y retomar el vuelo. No te rindas, que la vida es eso. Continuar el viaje, perseguir tus sueños, destrabar el tiempo, correr los escombros y destapar el cielo. No te rindas, por favor, no cedas. Aunque el frío queme, aunque el miedo muerda, aunque el sol se esconda y se calle el viento. Aún hay fuego en tu alma, aún hay vida en tus sueños, porque la vida es tuya y tuyo también el deseo, porque lo has querido y porque te quiero. porque existe el vino y el amor, es cierto, porque no hay heridas que no cure el tiempo, abrir las puertas, quitar los cerrojos, abandonar las murallas que te protegieron, vivir la vida y aceptar el reto, recuperar la risa, ensayar el canto, bajar la guardia y extender las manos, desplegar las alas y intentar de nuevo, celebrar la vida y retomar los cielos. No te rindas, por favor, no cedas, aunque el frío queme, aunque el miedo muerda, aunque el sol se ponga y se calle el viento. Aún hay fuego en tu alma, aún hay vida en tus sueños, porque cada día es un comienzo, porque esta es la hora y el mejor momento, porque no estás sola, porque yo te quiero.
Thank you. So just to honor time and giving everyone here a chance to share their magic and story, we're gonna just kind of shake your hands out. Take your hands and just shake them out. And then let them come to rest. And let this be a posture where you feel like you're gathering energy rather than anything else. And if you can, just come to close your eyes. And so what called you here today? What part of yourself is actually calling out to be released? When we let go of something, we create compost, we create the literal energetic matter for the next phase of our life to come into being. And when we resist these many deaths throughout life, we can stay in roles that no longer suit us. We can't shine as bright, we can't sing as loud. And we may come to feel stuck. And anytime you feel stuck, energy just wants to move. It doesn't have to be this super heady thing. We can release something from our closet. We can release something for our life. We can make space. We can make space in our body through how we move and the shapes that we take. And so today, as we come together to lay down an identity, I ask that you just pick one area of your life where something needs to go. And in the larger process of releasing descansos, you take the time and you go through your life and you start to mark all of those places physically on a piece of paper that were deaths that were never honored. Maybe it's the path that you didn't take. Maybe it's the heartbreak that you never shared. So allow this to be a part of what you take from this space and create into a full practice. And in your mind's eye, you can say these words, or you can say them aloud if we're all muted. Just ask grace to come in and take you. Take your belief beyond any identities that you have now. Ask the power that blooms the flowers and beats your heart to be here with you today, to help remove those old stagnant parts of yourself, the parts that are hurting. It'll feel like a balm, the parts that want to expand. And really just taking a moment to be in that space of release. And maybe you like take your hands and you just crumple them up and make them really, really, really tight, as tight as you can. This is what it feels like to hold on to something that's no longer yours, to an old identity, to an old person, to a group that's not feeding you. And then release your hands and let all that new, fresh blood rush in. And just feel that on a micro level, because on a macro level, it's happening as well. And so just taking a few more breaths in this space, Again, just to honor the time, if anyone wants to send me an email, I can give you more full instructions on this process of this identity funeral. I'm just going to take a few more deep breaths. Maybe just sigh it out and start to shake it out and gently come back into this time, into this space. And really see if you feel expanded. I'm going to invite my beautiful co-host, Kelly Mason, on. Actually, I'm wrong. We're actually going to Amanda. Amanda is part of the Sacred Seven. She is live from a festival. If you could raise your hand, Amanda, and if anyone else who's a co-host could help me bring Amanda up. She's just going to share a little bit of her story, the deaths she had to go through, and this beautiful thing she's creating. Can anyone help with I don't know where she is. I know she's here. I've seen her. She's wearing green. Oh, perfect. Hi. Hi.
Hi. So it says my internet is unstable because I'm in a pyramid in the woods, and so I'll do my best. It is beautiful to be with you all. The last time I saw Aisha and Kelly and Sherry and some others was in Portugal, and it was beautiful. And yeah, so today is preparing for the Frequency Revival, which is an event that I created that is a 3-day like festival style retreat out in the woods here in North Florida. And so I just jumped in the spring because I was covered in sweat, and so happy to be with you all. I brought my dragon because, well, I needed a dragon. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just right before I came to this community and I came to working with Frequency. I have been, I've worn this hat of I'm an artist for most of my life. And I was in a gallery and I had just curated a giant group show. It was like all of my effort in this white box and nobody was helping me. And I felt really depleted. And it was actually called Ancestral Transmission. That was the show's name. And so we created this giant altar for the ancestors. And there was just an emphasis on death. This was in October of last year. And I remember during the process of curating the show, I decided to see what it would feel like to just take off the hat of artist that I so tightly gripped onto for like most of my life, and just see what happened when I like began to just take off these layers of identity that I very strongly related to and kind of walked around with, right? We walk around with these packs of like, I am this and I am this and I am this. And it gets really heavy. And if it's not supporting you in that moment, what does it feel like to just take it off? What does it feel like to just lay yourself bare and what's left? And so there was this huge death of the ego, because when I took off the artist hat, there was great ego resistance. Like, what do you mean? You're supposed to do this forever. This is the path. Like, and there were kind of some blinders on, and the ego didn't want me to see past the blinders. And so then I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to take off all the hats. I'm not a yogi. I'm not a mom. I'm not a wife. I'm not anything. Now, what do you think? And the ego's like, ah! And it was beautiful. And I loved it. I love the process of playing with the ego, because the ego really wants to have a strong hold, right? The ego really wants to be in the driver's seat over and over and over again. And the more that we really come into conversation, and instead of being like, oh, that's not there, the more we can kind of play with those sides of ourselves that are a little bit prickly. So I lay myself bare. Who am I? Who am I now? And all of a sudden, I could see Healy. I could see this community. Before, it was just not even visible. And it was so out of the wheelhouse in which I had been working, in which I thought I belonged, that I was like, what? But it was because I had cleared this spaciousness, because I had taken off all the hats, because I had allowed my ego to die and die and die and shed and shed. And I lay myself bare and I say, what's next, divine? What's next, great spirit? What's next, universe? And then it was like, boom. And as soon as I saw it, when Aisha talked about it, I was like, yes, like my higher self, like dropped in, was like, this is it. This is it. And so that's all to say that, you know, when we just allow ourselves to be laid bare, even though, yes, I am a mother, and yes, I do practice yoga, and yes, I do make art, but when we really just allow it all to just set aside, then all this spaciousness invites so much room for the divine to offer you gifts over and over and over. And then it's about receiving and feeling worthy of the gifts. And so it's like, when I first joined this community, I mean, I was, when the Healy was on its way, I'm making the website. Like, I'm going to make a page on my website for this thing, because I just know it's going to be so incredible for me. And then I was greeted into this community. I've been dreaming of you, you know, and I was greeted in prosperity and just support. And it's all just an offering. And because I had that spaciousness, I was able to come to this community and receive the offering over and over again. And so every time I think I know, every time my hat comes back on, oh, now I'm a festival person and I make events and look at me. Nope, take it off. Lay yourself bare, bitch. You ain't all that. You don't even know. And so Frequency Revival is a 3-day wellness retreat that literally just came in because I had the space. And it was because I had been working with frequency as a daily practice for, at the time, I believe about 6 months. And it's really about that daily practice that enabled me to activate the remembrance of who I truly am at like the cellular level, right? At the DNA level, and the whole energy body gets to receive when we come into a devotional practice with high vibrational frequencies. And what I found by activating my cells and my DNA and my most divine optimal self, and I continue to do so, is everything is possible. Everything is possible. That's what the dragons tell me. Everything is possible. And all you have to do is get clear to what you want. Like, what really is going to serve you, what really is going to nourish you in your most high, right? And then you get to revive and rebirth and awaken to that truth. And then you step into the action steps. Okay, now I know who I am and what I want without all the stuff. And then guide me. Where am I guided? And so we have 90 people coming to this thing. We're going to have so many different ways to really mind our frequencies, right? Mind your frequency. Like, every moment of every day, mind your frequency. Like, what are you instructing your energy to do in this moment? And can you embody the way that you want to feel more often? And then the quantum field is on your side. Then time and space isn't really real. And you can whip out a quick festival retreat in 3 months. Wham, bam. And so anyway, I feel like creating that space, right? Really allowing those things to die and allowing the process of, the areas that are so used to being a part of you to let go. And that can be a little bit of a, but then there's space, and then you just soar with your dreams and in whatever multidimensional space you want to. And so that's what I would love to share with you all today. And I just appreciate Aisha and Kelly so much. It's a pleasure to be with you all, and much love.
Thank you. Thank you. Kelly, let's unmute. Me and Kelly are going to briefly role play one of the biggest ways that we, I'm going to put her ad pin. Ha! Did it. We're going to briefly role play one of the biggest identities that gets in your way. It doesn't matter if you decide to be a part of Healy or if you're in any other community, but thinking you have to be the expert when you enter is cock blocking your frequency. So hope no children are around, and if they are, they're okay. So Kelly, what does that sound like?
I'm not ready. I don't know if it's a full body yes. I think I need to wait for another sign.
Yep, I'll start when I watch all the videos and I talk to Marcus himself and the frequency gods come down and rain down upon me. Then I'll be ready.
Yeah, I think I might also need to go back to school and get a few more certificates, because I don't think that anyone is really gonna believe me unless I'm a quantum physicist. So I'll get back to you in 12 years. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I think I have to design maybe a whole course before I can even even talk about Healy. So I'm not sure if this is the right fit. I'm just not sure if I'm gonna be good here.
And I let all of my identities go. And now I need to start a new Instagram page. I needed to make a new website. I need to get a brand kit. For sure, I need to have the perfect fonts and the colors before I can tell anyone about these things that have miraculously changed my life, even though I feel really amazing.
So we laughed so hard when we were talking about coming together, because we've even said some of these excuses, and we've stepped into the identity of expert level before we even get started. And that's a major way that the energy can't move. You have to be curious, you have to be open. And I'll let Kelly introduce our next speaker, because they're going to talk about just getting right in there.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you to Caitlin. She has a brand called Be Real to Heal, and her story of jumping right in is so powerful. I actually met Caitlin. She's on in my community and my team. And the reason that she found me was because that I had been talking to someone that she knew, and we were talking about Healy and frequency, and she was a breathwork facilitator. And she's like, I'm just not really quite ready to play with Healy yet, but yeah, keep it in mind. And I'm like, okay, sometimes our ego is like, oh my God, I sucked. What did I say wrong? But really it's that vulnerability and the honesty of putting yourself out there and planting seeds. So what happened was I get a message from Caitlin and also the girl who I was chatting with saying, hey, I have a friend who's really interested in working with Healy, but she doesn't know anyone who sells them. I'm going to give her your name. And I was like, cool. Caitlin reaches out to me and was like, I heard about this frequency thing, and I'll let her tell a little bit of her story about working with frequency with a different modality, but she wanted to get a Healy. And because I put myself out there and just planted seeds and expressed my passion and how much I love this tool in this community, she found me, and now we're working together. And she's been jumping right in just a few weeks after she purchased her device to start sharing her message that is Be Real to Heal. So I'm going to introduce Caitlin. I'll go ahead and bring you on and share about being all in and jumping in.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for making me laugh before I came on to speak. I feel so good now. So my topic is the power of jumping in, the power of feeling the full body yes and just going for that. But all week I've been so excited to get on here. And I'll be real with you. I woke up this morning with just like the worst anxiety. I was like, oh no, here are the feelings of doubt. Here are the worries. Am I going to forget my speech? I'm so stressed. Am I going to remember what to say? And you know what? I'm now at a place where I'm like, whoa, stop. This is not me. This is not my highest frequency. So I grabbed my Healy. I put on the release program. I told my husband that I need to get into my favorite lake. We have this like beautiful lake here that's turquoise colors, and there's usually next to no one on it. And we went for a paddle and we went skinny dipping. And I think that that is such a metaphor for what we were talking about today, like stripping it all off. And I got off, like we got home and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel so ready to share my story. So what I'm really going to talk to you guys today is the evolution of how I became a person who could step into those heart tugs, who could message a stranger and say, hey, I want to start a business with you because it feels aligned, and not need to know any more information other than that it feels good in my body. My mission is to create healing communities through deep connection and vulnerability. And in order to do that, I have really learned that I have to go first. I have to be the one who's vulnerable. So I am going to get very vulnerable on this call with you all. There have been 3 things within probably the last year and a half that I have been manifesting. I've said out loud that I've wanted, and it's going to sound kind of crazy when you hear them. The first one, and Kelly mentioned I had worked with a different frequency device. So a year and a half ago, I was working with a naturopath. I was really not feeling well, and we discovered that I had Lyme disease, and he was able to put my Lyme disease into remission using light frequency therapy. And I felt so good after using this that I said to my husband a year and a half ago, Healy's not even in Canada, I said, I want a frequency machine so I can start my own healing business. I think I can make a big impact. And then I was told that, you know, it's really hard to get into Canada. It was made in Germany. Like, that's not going to happen. And my naturopath said, if my machine breaks, I'm like out of luck. I was like, all right, yeah, put it on the back burner. The second thing was I really wanted an ability to live out my mission in a way that I still had time to pour into myself and my health practices, and have time for the things and the people that are very important in my life. And the third was and this is the biggest one that I've been putting out, is I've been searching for my aligned community, a community of people that are inspiring, that are like dedicated to living their mission and being in their highest frequency. And I've been putting that out there. So I ask everyone on this call today, when the things that you've been asking for start to show up, do you say yes? Do you accept them? Or do you push them away because they are showing up in a package that isn't what you expected? And a friend of mine that is going through a very aggressive type of breast cancer, she's going through chemotherapy right now. She coined the sentence she said her cancer is a gift wrapped in sandpaper. The things that we are calling in, the abundance that we're seeking, it requires growth. It requires discomfort. It requires letting go of those old beliefs, our old identity, because if you were the person that could have that abundance, you'd already have it. So you need to evolve in order to get it. And that is why those things that we are calling in never come the way we are expected. So I know that hearing about stepping into your power and being your best self, it sounds like really awesome. It sounds super sexy and exciting. But anyone that has tried to do something different and has gotten uncomfortable knows that it is also terrifying. So often that we will just like walk away and be like, that's unsafe. My ego is like clearly telling me that like this is a no-go. And 7 years ago, I think it was 7 years ago now, I was really, really feeling the call to step away from that traditional way of living, you know, working the 40 hours a week, putting your kids in daycare. And what showed up for me in that time was a different social marketing company. And I started to realize that there was so much from my past that was holding me back. And that if I truly wanted to progress, I needed to start my healing journey. And I'm going to share with you one major thing that was holding me back. When I was 15, this is the part where I get vulnerable. So when I was 15 years old, if you're in your 30s, you know what I'm talking about. I was talking on MSN Messenger. I was making plans with my friends in the summertime, just, you know, in my own teenage world. And I could hear my sister and my mom having an argument in the background. I was in the room over, and all I really heard her say, my sister yell, was, "Why won't you let me sleep over at her house? Do you not like her family or something?" Then they both came into the room that I was in, and my mom tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I need to talk to you both." And I was like, what does this have to do with me? And she said, "You'll see." And she said, "Come sit on the couch." And she sat on the table in front of me, the coffee table. She was looking straight into my eyes, and all her energy was focused on me. And I was really confused, still wondering, what does this have to do with me? And she told us that she was married before she met my dad, which this was news to me. And she said, "I got married to a man who ended up being the father of my sister's friend she wanted to sleep over at. I got married young. It wasn't to someone I was in love with. I was doing what society kind of expected of me, and I was too afraid to say that I wanted out." And she met my dad, and she felt madly in love with him, and she ended up having an affair. And I looked at her, and the first question I asked was, "How do you know that dad is my dad?" And her eyes welled up with tears, and she said, "I don't know." So you can imagine that I was shook to my core that day. I started to question my value, my worth, where I belonged to my family, and how much I was loved. And thank you. And my way of processing things is largely through talking them out. And so I would go to my parents and my family, and I would try and talk about what I had heard and try and process, try and ask questions. And every time I was shut out because they weren't comfortable talking about it. They wanted to tell me, and then they wanted to be done with that. So I learned to shove my feelings deep down in my body. I learned to build a really big wall around my heart. I learned to be afraid to take up space, to make other people uncomfortable, to speak my truth, and to be seen in my power. Basically, I didn't want to experience anything that resembled that time in my life. Shifting gears quickly for a second. I don't know if you guys follow the Gene Keys. If you don't, I urge you to just look up your free profile. I love the Gene Keys. It's like an astrological profile on steroids. But my profile says that I am meant to be a leader, a healer, and a fire starter. Maybe you can feel that on this call today, but for so many years, I let my insecurities and my old belief prevent me from living out my purpose, literally what I was put on this earth to do. But then came entrepreneurship. I had no idea the shadows I was going to face when stepping into this world. Asking people to take a look at my products, to join my team, and trust me as a leader was starting to bring up all the things I was trying to avoid for 13 years. The fear of being disliked, the fear of being misunderstood, and the fear of being rejected. Despite all those fears in this past company, I did climb to the top 10% within five months. And as I was sitting down to think about what I wanted to talk to you all today, I reflected on why was it so easy for me to get to that top 10%, but then I couldn't move past it. And the top 10% might sound really nice, but it's a still place where I was living paycheck to paycheck. It was not a life of abundance. It's not what I see for myself. It's not my vision. And what I realized was I've been in the top 10% all my life. I've been in the top 10% in for my grades in high school, top 10% competitive swimming, and top 10% for my grades in nursing school. I had a belief system that supported that I belong in the top 10%. So whatever you believe, you will achieve. You've heard that a million times, and it sounds really corny, but it's so true. I know that in order for me to push past the top 10% of anything in my life, I needed to commence my healing journey. I needed to heal the little girl that didn't feel seen or witnessed in her pain. My parents might have shut me out at that age, but I shut myself out too. I told that little girl, I told myself that I needed to be small. I needed to worry about everyone's feelings all around me, and I needed to make other people uncomfortable. Has anyone else ever told themselves they needed to be small because their power made other people feel uncomfortable? Put a 1 in the chat. Yeah. I just want to be so clear though. I am so grateful for my gift wrapped in sandpaper. Because if I didn't have to go through that, I would not have learned how to truly love myself, how to realize that it is not my job to make other people feel comfortable. It is my job to love myself and to put my own needs first. And now I'm able to teach other people how to do that too. So whether you consciously chose this journey or you unconsciously did, entrepreneurship is an invitation to heal. The more you heal, the more your business grows. This isn't about selling Heelys. Heely is an amazing tool that can help you move through your emotions quicker. It can help your body transform. But what it's really about is stepping into your highest frequency, and it's about helping other people do the same thing. It is about creating the new earth. And so maybe you've heard that going around a lot. It's something that came into my awareness just before joining Heely. And when I heard it again, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right place. But I'm sure you all know what it's like to be around someone that loves unconditionally, that is full of joy, that is just a joy to be around. They're living in their purpose. Well, imagine if you got off this call and you went to the grocery store and every second person was like that, or every person was like that. What kind of world would that be to live in? That is what we're trying to create here. So I invite you all to become aware of the heart tugs that you have. Reach out to the person that's on your mind. Start the community that you are seeking. Call the loved one that you've been avoiding. Heal and embrace all the parts of you that are giving you the illusion of safety. There is no safety in playing small. Someone out there needs you. Like they need you, specifically need you. They don't need someone else. They are waiting for you to step into your best self. So at the beginning, I talked about 3 things that I was calling in. They were a healing device to start a business with, an ability to live my mission, but still have the balance in my life that I was seeking, a community of aligned people who may help support me to my best version of myself. But I want to explain just a little bit further. I mentioned I wanted a frequency device and why, but I've owned a Heely for 1 month now, and I've already felt it reset my nervous system. I'm more present and calm with my children. I'm sleeping better. I'm having better intimacy with my husband, and I am detoxing more efficiently. And I'm not even fully aware of how to use it to its full capabilities. I'm still learning. Prior to hearing about Heely, I was navigating the launch of my Be Real to Heal business, a one-on-one coaching and group coaching program. But I was coming face to face with the realization that if this was the one thing that was going to bring in income for me, I was going to have to put in a lot more time than felt aligned for me. And so I began manifesting another social marketing company because I had seen how that was a really good balance for me. But I wanted to find one that was aligned with the version of me that's standing in front of you today, or sitting, I guess. And that's when Heely came in. The time leveraging power that we have within this business model is life-changing. I used to work 40 hours a week as a nurse, And I used to send my 2 kids at the time, I now have 3. I used to send them to daycare, and I used to be frustrated when they were sick because I had to let down my coworkers. And I know that there are still so many people who are in that lifestyle and they're seeking a way out. And this could be an option for them, for you, or anyone out there. But I just want everyone to just remember, the most expensive thing we can own is a closed mind, and being open-minded to anything that comes into our awareness. And that could be anything. That is our ticket to freedom. Just being curious and just seeing what the possibility could be. And lastly, a community of aligned people is so, so powerful. I can already feel the frequency lifting me up into my highest purpose. Entrepreneurship allows you to grow, and this is the key to growing your business. The first thing, though, I want everyone to remember is that we're all coming into this business with a different belief system. Some people are coming in believing they belong in the top 1%. Thank you so much to those people, because you are the trailblazers. You are there to show us what is possible. But others are coming into this or anything feeling like they're not even worthy of being here. They're questioning why they're here. And I just want you to know that you are so worthy. Every time you feel that fear and overwhelm come up, that is just an invitation for growth. That is an invitation to heal. So my number 1 tip for helping you stop the waiting game and jumping into those heart tugs is feel the fear, but prove to yourself that you can do it anyways. If you are having trouble getting started, look for where you need to heal and allow yourself the chance to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Wow. That was so beautiful and deep, and just sprinkled with so many great takeaways. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your journey with us. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to bring on Sherry. Sherry is a dear friend of mine that we met at yoga teacher training. Little did I know we would become business partners, comrades, and playing in this quantum field of frequency together 4 years later. And Sherry's going to talk about the yin and the yang of business, the masculine and feminine, and really embodying both parts, because we've talked a lot about letting go. We've talked a lot about emotions and shedding. And there's also this really key piece that is taking action and doing the thing and moving the bus forward. And so I'm going to bring on Sherry. She's going to talk a little bit about masculine and feminine embodiment.
Thank you, Kelly. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, all right. So I have a little presentation, the yin and the yang of business. And this is kind of where I started, and it's sort of been an evolving journey as I worked through this presentation of exactly how what I wanted to express. And so here we go. So truly, when I think about the duality, it's really a question of duality. When I start looking at the yin and the yang of business, the masculine, the feminine energy, and this whole balance of this energetic really speaks to me of finding your balance within yourself. When you can recognize your dualistic nature and realize that you're both and not either or, it's sort of that starting point of how to really move beyond it. You need to both do action and be the surrender. You need to do the inner work and you need to do the outer work, right? So it's always finding that balance between both sides. And while you can see in this little graphic of the yin and yang symbol that you're both light and the dark, right? So there's two opposites, and while they balance each other, you can see that there has to be balance within each one, right? There's the little white speck on the black piece, and there's the black speck on the white piece, and so that's finding each one in its own balance. So if you're doing this business now with Healy and you feel like you're doing all the things right, you're doing the reach outs, you're doing, you're setting you're writing your vision statements, you're doing your social media, but nothing is changing, right? And this is, I know I've been there, I'm sure other people have been there. But when you're in that space and you're noticing like things aren't changing, it's an invitation to really look deeper and to see like what might be out of balance, maybe within one of those energetics. And so where we start to look for that, let's see, is we have to do an honest self-assessment. And so when I started doing this, this is when things started shifting for me. You can look at your emotions, you can look at your mindset and your thoughts, and then see how that's really creating your reality and see what's showing up in your life. And this is a really good process to start doing. And I will say, like, when you're first starting out, it's hard to get that clarity because you think, I'm doing all the things, I'm taking those steps, I'm using the tracker sheet, like why is this not lining up for me yet? And you may not be able to see where you're at emotionally or where you're at with your mindset. And that's where we have this beautiful device that can give us a little bit of insight, right? If you have the Resonance Plus or the Pro models, you have access to the coach and you have access to the Aura scan. And these are ways that you can start to see and get real data on what might be blocking you in either of these realms. I also like to use the I Ching, creative homeopathy, the Bach flower essences. And I think some people have already mentioned in the chat, like, yeah, like we get called out when those things show up because it's a little bit uncomfortable, right? And we don't always like to be uncomfortable. So when those things show up, what do we do with them, with that data that we get when we do the self-assessment, when we run all those blue app programs and we start to see what's really showing up as blockages for ourselves? And it has to come from a space of radical, or we have to come from a space of radical self-acceptance, because it's so easy to get into this, you know, even us, we're saying we get called out by our Heelys, right? Like that's a judgment we're placing. We're getting wrapped up in that and not wanting to be judged, but we're the ones that are making it a judgment. Like Healy is not sitting here saying, I'm judging you. So when these things come up, just sort of notice what's there. And like, can you love yourself through the cringe of what shows up for you or what you realize? And once you start to get clarity on what's going on, where you're at with your emotions or where you're at with your mindset, can you really forgive yourself for being your own saboteur? Because the truth of what's going on is why we're blocking ourselves or sabotaging ourselves or not able to get into the aligned spaces that we need to be is we have set up these programs and these coping mechanisms that are helping keep us safe. And those are the ones that are keeping us small, because when we're small, we're safe, right? If we don't go out and risk something, we don't have that option of getting hurt or getting support. So we keep ourselves small in those ways. And it becomes a survival mechanism, right? And it's really easy to want to judge ourselves for being in that space. But when you can start to get the clarity and understand that it's a beautiful way that we operate, and rather than shunning it, we can accept it. And then we can, you know, like Caitlin said, like you feel the fear, but you do it anyway. You choose something different and you make that you start to make that your default mode. And knowing that you've got a programmable nervous system, you can start to change the program. So how do you do that? You're going to lean into discomfort. So you set a goal for your business, either to hit a rank, to sell a number of devices. Maybe you didn't hit your goal. And I want to bring up this metaphor of doing drop sets. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever done any resistance training, and especially anything that's a drop set. And I'm going to explain what that is. So if you're training, you're going to take, say you're doing squats, you're going to load up the bar with as much weight as you can possibly lift. And you're trying to do as many reps as you can, and you load it real heavy. So you're only doing, you know, maybe 2 or 3 or maybe even 1. And when you do it to failure, you can't do that rep anymore at that weight. You drop the weight by 10 to 30%, and then you rep again until failure. And you keep doing that. And you do that without pausing. You want to keep going continuous. So there's no breaks in between. And what happens is when you start lifting like this, you actually will get stronger faster than if you just went in and just did 10 sets of, you know, whatever, roughly 60-70% of your max weight. I love this analogy when it comes to the Healy business, because it really starts to take the word failure and give it another flavor. So when we think of the word failure, a lot of the times there's there's old programming with that, right? Like we grew up in the matrix. You know, you get a pass or fail grade, you pass or fail your driver's license. There's a lot of shame and blame and unworthiness that goes with failure. And that becomes a lot of discomfort for us. And when you think of it from this perspective, from the drop set perspective, here's a good thing. You want your muscles to fail because that's how they get stronger. You want this to happen so that you can build up over time and and you just keep persisting and it happens. Failure not the stopping point, it's that shifting point. It's actually really beautiful to fail. When you shoot for the moon, if you miss, you're still going to land among the stars, right? So this is a little cliche, I know. And I want to tell myself a little bit. In March, I think I sold like 5 or 6 Meg Heelys. And at first I was like super pumped, like I should be, right? Like I sold 5 or 6 Megs. That's amazing. And then I started to get into a story about it where I was like, oh my gosh, I did not sell one of these Megs to a single new customer. These were all people who had already bought Heelys from me. And that was my resistance. That was my story. And I started beating myself up about it. I was like, I'm not going to get the same. I'm not going to get a bigger, my commission's not going to be very big. I put in all this time for nothing. What am I even doing? And that just took me out for like, I didn't sell anything in April. And I had this like terrible mindset. And when I finally clued in of like the story I was in and what I was telling myself, and I knew it like that needed a funeral. So it was probably the latter part of April. And I'm like, look, I'm going to Portugal. I cannot be in this space. Like, this is not who I want to be and how I want to show up. So I came out swinging in May, totally shifted and started going through this process of, looking at what's there for me, what's showing up and how I want to shift it. Resistance adjustment kind of comes up with that weightlifting metaphor, but it also comes up for me when I run my scans in the blue app on the I Ching. I get number 21. It's not, knowing when I start looking back at my business and at my story, it's not a surprise. The criminal trial symbolizes endurance, power, and may indicate a time of resistance adjustment. And often I look at these and I don't know what they mean. I just run them. But this really like made me pause because I'm like, yes, like I need to adjust my resistance. I can't go out there and push like my max weight. I can only do 1 or 2 reps at that. I need to bring in and adjust that resistance. And I could also get into a story about why is this showing up for me in my I Ching scan? Is it calling me out? But typically when this one shows up, I also get number 42, which is the profit, and it symbolizes times of profit and abundance. So you can see there's that duality again, the balance, the yin and the yang, right? Like being able to adjust resistance and see results. So when you're in this space, I invite you to really notice like what is trying to derail you, like what thought is coming in, and don't let it. Just adjust your course, adjust that resistance and keep going. You can change the load and move it. And then check in again, like what is the reality? What is showing up in your life when you start to make these shifts? So getting back to telling on myself, after that whole experience earlier this year, last month, coming out of Portugal, I set this goal for myself of, I'm going to sell 6 Heelys this month. And I challenged my to do the same. And I asked, like, does this make you as uncomfortable? And we were all talking about how there's this discomfort in that. And I know there's different theories on like, how much do you want to bite off and set as your goal? And like, how much discomfort should you feel, or how much is going to shut you down? So I invite you to get curious about that and really look at that within yourself. But I really set that goal and I didn't make it, but I got 5. So what if I had set a goal to sell 3 Heelys? Would I have gotten 2? Like where would that be? How can I move and adjust that goal for myself and adjust that resistance to still make it and still feel good about where I'm at? So once you've started this process of exploration, you can really start to choose your self-expression. So you start looking at your emotions, you start looking at your mindset, and you start looking at your reality and like what's showing up for you in your reality. And now you can be more choosy, right? So the first process is just looking to see what's there. Now you get to plug it in. You get to play with whatever you want to play instead of letting yourself be played. So you can choose your high vibe emotions and you can practice feeling them. So think about, how would you feel in your being if you did achieve the goal that you want to be, whether it's your rank, whether it's a number of sales, whether, whatever your vision is. how does that feel in your body? And can you really sit with that and call that feeling in and just practice being there? And what's beautiful is this, like, you can actually bring that feeling in without it being conditional upon the achievement of that goal, but you're already starting to build a nerve system and a capacity for aligning with it. Same thing with your mindset. Because we know that we're programmable, we have that choice and that ability to choose our mindset. So what is the intention with which you plan to show up today? What is the mindset that you want for today? And this is a beautiful thing to start doing, because when you do get derailed and you do get sidetracked because life happens, things show up, and now you have something that you can orient yourself back to. So when you've been on social media and you're just scrolling instead of getting back to what your intention was, you have a little reminder of, like, I set a mindset, I'm going to orient myself back to my intention and to where I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And then you can start adding this to the whole process of looking, once you've been doing these actions, what is showing up in your life. And then to wrap it up, this is a lot of really working your inner work. Right. So we know the outer work steps, it's all the outward facing actions that we're doing. And if we show up with those outer steps with in low vibe emotions, or in this space where our mindset is just not really aligned with what we want to do, it's sort of that it's not being that full yes, right? Like there's a part of you that's resistant or holding back, and you may or may not be aware of it. It's kind of like the background music that's playing. So when you start kind of doing this process, you can really start to be aware of where your thoughts are at, where your emotions are at, and that information is helpful, but then you also are training yourself to catch yourself when you're in those spaces, and then to go back to what it is that you choose to be. So you can take actions from your chosen mindset and emotions, rather than, letting them work you. You're working them to your advantage. And make sure that when you're doing your reach outs, you're in that high vibe state. Make sure that when you're talking to people about Healy, you're doing it with the intention that you intended to show up with. So do what you set out to do, and then let it go is the last piece. I know myself, I might post something on social media, and then I'm grabbing my phone and I'm like, did anyone like it? Did I get any reaction? Did anyone DM me? Let it go. Like, you do your work, and then your work is done. You can just totally let it go and do something else, because that's another way that's that back door to sabotaging that comes in, that we start to notice is happening. And it happens to me. I'm sure it happens to you guys too. And when you can completely let go, trust that you did the action step that you needed to, trust that you did the inner work, that you were aligned with the emotions and with the mindset and intention you wanted to be in, and then start really shifting gears. And this is where you are building a nervous system and a business where you trust yourself, and you trust the universe, and you trust that it's all working out when you can let go and surrender. And the optimal thing to do after you've done the work is to go and do something fun, because then you're going to stay in those high vibe emotions, and you're not going to get stuck in the whole murk and the mire of that sabotaging action. So that's all that I have to share for today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And yeah, thanks to Kelly and Aisha for inviting me to speak and for putting this together.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm going to do a little toss off. When you're running like a marathon, you have that little baton. I'm going to toss it to Kimberly. She's a somatic coach. I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about what she does, and she's gonna take us someplace. That's all I'll say.
Thank you so much, Aisha. I'm so honored to be here. And I really feel you all in this space, and I feel your tears and I feel your joy, and I'm so moved by it, and I'm so honored by it. And I'd like to invite you into ceremony with me now, just for a moment. But I'd like to start with that baton. And I really liked what Sherry said about orientation and this reorientation to the self. And I love this word so much because death is also a rebirth. There are different versions of you that are needed
for different times in your life and are needed in different phases, different versions and different aspects of yourself. And there is a version of you that is waiting in the wings. If you are on this call, there is a version of you that is waiting to knock on that door and is waiting to like break that door down and might even be already sort of coming through. And that is the part of you that is a perfect match to your desire, that is magnetic to your desire, that is going to whoosh, full on whoosh in, swoop in, fly in, instantly. Transformation can happen quickly. And so I would like to invite you to shift with me. I think we're all here because we want to experience this like very momentous shift. And we want it to happen in one felt swoop because we know that it can. And so I'd like to just invite this idea that this is possible. And I'd like for you to explore this with me in ceremony for a moment. And I just want to reiterate that this version of you that is like waiting in the wings, this is the part of you that knows what to do and that knows what is needed at this time. That is magnetic to your desire, your truth. And I also really liked, I just wanted to touch on sort of this theme and sort of what Amanda talked about, this like clarity in being, and how it really has more to do with breaking down and breaking away, dissolving what's not you, ultimately. And that's really what I'd like to offer today. I'd like to offer a timeline jump as a practice. And that's really what it's about. It's about merging with the next available version of you so that more of you can exist in your reality. So I'm just going to give you like a very quick snippet of what timeline jumping is in essence. Timeline jumping is a practice that is for leaning into the belief that we create our reality based on who we are being. That the vibration of our energetic signature and all that is being held and emanating from our bodies is the driving force of our current reality, mirrored back to us through life experience. So in this process of timeline jumping, we intentionally disrupt the vibrational inertia of reality without creating disturbance to our person or to the psyche. And we do this by working with the void, the cosmic womb, the holy womb of no thing. And we do this in the liminal space of the subconscious through breath, sensation, and visualization, which I'm sure many of you already do and already have some form of meditation practice. So this should feel fairly easy for most of us, I think. But you know, if you have any questions about this process, you can always reach out to me for support afterwards. So we're going to work with the void to dissolve meaning and attachments around your current timeline. And just take some of the weight off, you know, that's what the void does. The void is an aspect of nature. Nature, just like the earth, who, you know, dissolves our waste and creates new things, knows exactly what to do with it. So there is this loving sort of sentiment that you can be held also by the void that says, let me hold this for you. All this stuff that's not you or that's weighing you down, let me hold this for you. And in terms of frequency, this is my last note. What this really looks like, if you need more of a visual, if you're a visual person, it looks like the neutralizing of your energetic signature, or turning down the dial to kind of create this like baseline neutral frequency in order to jump to the next timeline, again, without disturbing your person. Knowing that the next available version of you is going to step in because they're magnetic to your desire and they are you. So I just would like to affirm to you that after we do this process, you are the new you. And the work around this is essentially a remembrance of that. So anything that you can do to prompt to yourself, especially that first 7 to 11 days after this process, to just remind yourself, I am the new me. That's going to help you sort of discover who that person is through making choices and through allowing yourself to participate in life with a little more ease and a little more grace. Okay, so do what you need to do to feel safe and secure in your space and uninterrupted. You might need to lock a door or turn the lights off or get a glass of water. But you can also use your hands, place them on your body so that you feel secure, you feel safe, you feel held. And then when you feel ready, begin to soften your gaze. And if it feels correct for you, you can close your eyes with me. And then just stay with my voice here and breathe with me. Inhale. Exhale out through your mouth. Breathe in. Breathe out. Take one more breath. You can move at your own pace with this last breath, but begin to settle into the sensation of being in your body. Make sure that you can feel your body. And that's all you have to do right now. I'd like for you to imagine now for a moment that you could step outside of your body and that you could see yourself in the room that you're in, as if you were not you, observing this person. Imagine that you could walk 360 degrees around this person, around yourself, and just begin to notice the details. Begin to notice what this person might be experiencing and acknowledge this as their timeline. What is this person currently experiencing in their life? What is this person currently working through, feeling, releasing, needing? And then just begin to notice if that description of yourself from an outside perspective holds any significance, interest, or meaning for you. And just take note that there are no right or wrong answers here, and that it's safe to experience all of your feelings right here, right now. I'd like for you to step back inside of your body now, and I'd like for you to draw your awareness down to your feet and your toes and allow all of your consciousness to pool there as well. Just begin to notice any sensations that you feel in your feet. This could also be a lack of sensation. And as you linger here in the space of your feet, just begin to notice and name for yourself any symbols, sounds, colors, textures, sensations, ideas, thoughts, or memories that might be present here for you. Sometimes we find ourselves trailing off in thought and we think that that's random, but it's not. So just take note of everything that you're experiencing here. Exhale out through your mouth and push all of your air out. Breathe in and begin to draw your awareness now up through your legs so that your consciousness and your awareness, your total presence can settle in the space of your belly and your pelvic bowl, your midsection. Allow yourself to just be here now with any sensations, visions, colors, sounds, memories, sensations, feelings, thoughts, ideas. Or even colors here. Breathe in gently, exhale out through your mouth. Inhale, scoop your awareness and all of your consciousness now up into your heart space. Once you've settled here, just begin to notice any sounds, colors, textures, symbols, sensations, memories, ideas, or thoughts have settled here that are present here. And just allow yourself to not be rushed. Allow yourself to really sink in deeply here. Allow your heart to expand as you breathe in. Exhale out through your mouth. Breathe in and draw all of your consciousness up through your throat space and into your crown chakra. Once you feel that your full conscious presence has settled here, you can begin to notice any sounds, colors, symbols, textures, sensations, memories, ideas, or thoughts that are lingering here in this space. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. Take a deep breath in, starting at your feet, and just travel all the way up in a single breath with me. Breathe in through your feet, your legs, your belly, your heart, your throat, and your crown chakra. Pull all of that consciousness, draw it up into your crown chakra. You can acknowledge all of this collected energy, all of these memories, thoughts, symbols, sensations, colors, sounds, and states of being as your energetic signature, the signal of your current timeline. I'd like for you to carry this signal with you now and step into the void with me. Imagine everything around you getting darker and darker, dimmer and dimmer until you are in complete darkness and silence. Once you have located yourself in the void, step even further in with me, knowing that you are safe. Breathe in once more. And then exhale out through your mouth. Imagine that you are breathing this timeline into your palms. And just begin to notice what forms there in your palms. Any symbols, colors, sounds, sensations, feelings, ideas, or thoughts. Just begin to notice if this signal is still transforming or if it's settled into a single symbol. I'd like for you to show this symbol of your timeline, your current timeline, to the void. And just take note if it has any significance, interest, or meaning to you at this moment. Allow the void to now dissolve this timeline. Could come to you as a simple knowing. It could be a visual of it crumbling before you. And it could be a sensation, something escaping or leaving your body. The void now presents a door to you, the door where the next available version of you is waiting on the other side. When you feel ready, you can step up to this door. Notice that you already know what the handle of this door feels like, the same way that you know what it would feel like to lick that door. Your body knows the sensation of this door. Open the door and step into your new timeline. Whatever space you just stepped into, you can acknowledge this as a symbol of your new timeline. You might have to go searching for the next available version of you, and you might just have been greeted right away. But I'd like for you to notice the details and describe for yourself what is specific about this next version of you. How do you know that this is you? What's the same about you? Begin to move closer and really begin to embrace the essence, the energy, and the presence of this version of you. Allow yourself to receive any messages or sentiments they might have for you, and then invite and embrace. As you begin to move closer, just begin to notice, how does their hair feel? What's the quality of their skin? Allow yourself to be really intimate with this version of yourself. And as you embrace, begin to breathe in unison, so that every breath you take, you become more and more them, so that you begin to merge through your breathing. Allow yourself to breathe together until there is no other you. There is only you. And you are them. I'd like for you to just take one last moment here, one pause, to notice what it feels like to be in their body. To notice what their energy feels like. And to acknowledge any symbols, messages, or statements that resonate with this version of yourself. You can take your time here lingering in these energies, but when you feel ready, you can begin to come back to your body and come back to my voice. You can begin to come back into the sensation of your body and whatever you're sitting on, a sense of the room around you. And with one final breath, you can begin to open your eyes very gently and slowly, but please take your time. Know that there's no rush. Welcome to your new timeline.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have no words, which seems to be what people are saying about what it is that you do. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your belief. I could feel it. I was like right there in the void. Thank you. I'm gonna pin Kelly up here and she's gonna take us home.
Woo, who feels like they are on the new timeline? I'm like, okay. I want to honor everyone's time. I had a practice to close us out with, but I want to make sure that we can get out of here with respect to the 90-minute timeline that we have in here. Just drop a 1. I'll just get a read for who's actually present on this call still. If you want to stay for like 5 more minutes and do a little elemental embodiment. Okay. See you guys. I'm going to condense this down as quickly as I can, because this is the part where we've shed a lot of stories. We've listened to stories, we're starting to notice our own stories that need to be collapsed, that need to be shed, that need to be laid to rest. And when we do that, we need to know, what are we filling that space with, and who is filling that space? Is it the programming? Is it the outside chatter? Is it old stories from ancestors or our family units? Or is it going to come from our soul? And the thing that I always work with is the elements, not the thing, the essence, the frequency of the elements, because they're true. They're true and they're honest and they're connected to everything. They're connected to this physical plane, the ethereal plane, the cosmic plane, and in everything is them. So what we're going to do is to finish this identity funeral and rebirth ourselves to go back out into the world, do our great work. If you were invited to this call as a guest, I invite you to reach back out to the person who invited you here and have a conversation about what you experienced today. Maybe something that lit you up, maybe you're a little confused, or maybe you want to learn a lot more about what we do here in this community and what this device, this quantum frequency device that we work with called the Healy, has to offer you. And if you are a part of this community and you've been here and you're excited about the people you invited or the things that you've been talking about publicly, I invite you to tonight or tomorrow share one takeaway that you got from this experience, one thing that lit you up, that reminds you why we gather in spaces like this. We sit in circle, we become mirrors to each other in these spaces. And I invite you to courageously and bravely and vocally share one thing that came from today. So what we're going to do is, we're going to do rapid fire. Okay. We're going to drop into the element of earth. This is our root chakra. This is our body. This is our foundation. This is our grid. This is what we need to have really stabilized. This is what Healy is so great for, is having that communication with our physical being, our energetic being, our consciousness all at once. And I want you to just drop in really quick down to the root, the base of your spine, tap into the color red. And whatever comes up around the statement, I am is the statement that's interlaced with the earth element, that's interlaced with our root chakra, who we really are at the base of the core. And just drop into I am. What's the word that first comes up? Drop it in the chat. First word that drops into your consciousness. I am. What am I? I am beautiful, whole, safe, abundant. I want you to feel these words as they expand into this red space around the base of your spine. I am safe. I am confident. I am bold. I am loved. I'm powerful. I'm strong. I'm a jaguar, a fertile soil. I'm secure. And just feel your energy shift. Everyone's body should feel a little warm, a little tingly, like you are embodying this into the base and the root of who you are. I am free. I'm strong. I'm light. Okay. We're going to shift into water. Water is our sacral chakra. This is about 2 fingers below our belly button. Drop into that space and expand the color orange. Imagine orange just illuminated around that lower belly. This is our space for our greatest feeling, our intuition, that connection with the waters of our body. This is I feel. When you hear I feel, immediately, what do I feel? What's the first word? What's the first frequency that comes into your consciousness? Drop it into the chat right now. I feel powerful. I feel safe. I feel resilient. I feel beautiful, calm in myself. I feel light. I feel playful. I feel powerful, warm. Feel that expand into that lower belly space, your creativity, the fluidity that flows through you. It's so powerful. It's communicating with every single cell in your entire body right now. Moving into the element of fire, your solar plexus, your perfect center, your strength, your courage, your inner will. I create. What do you create? What are you creating? I create. Drop a word in the chat. I create love. I create magic. I create community. I create magic, orgasms, love, beauty, space, wealth. Yes, I create abundance. I create magic, so much magic. You are magic makers. Feel those frequencies expanding into your power center, into your lioness, into your lion, into that space that it tells you, yes, I can do anything. Yes, I'm limitless. Yes, it is my time right now. I don't have to wait. I am the yes. If I want the yes, it's here right now for me now. We're going to move into the element of air. This has two parts. I give and I receive. We're going to drop into the heart center. It's the color green. Imagine the color green expanding from the center of your chest, your true heart, your energetic heart, and your physical heart. This is a space where I give. What do I give? Drop a word in the chat. I give. What are you giving freely? This is the element of air. We are communicating, we're connecting, we're moving in and through time and space. I give wisdom, bliss, grace, freedom, vision, inspiration, giving freely. Feel that frequency of your body. Maybe even shake out your hands. Your hands are directly connected to your heart. And I give. Don't expect anything in return. We give freely. We just let it go from our heart. I give friendship. I give abundance. Yes, I give love. Now we're going to move into the higher heart. This is the last space. These are the spaces of manifestation. These are the spaces that we create from, that we emit all of this frequency from. It has to come from the body, and everything from the heart down is our body is in this physical plane. And so we're going to move into the higher heart. This is I receive. So imagine the space between your throat and your heart center. This is the color pink. And this is still the element of air. It's that connection space where the air from our heart moves up to our throat so that it can be spoken, so that it can be transmitted, so that it can be verbalized and connected with our community, our spaces, our people, our families. What do you receive? I receive. Maybe even tap on that space right above the heart, right below the throat. I receive grace. I receive joy. What do you need right now? I receive goodness. I receive God. I receive money. I receive pleasure. I receive strength, peace, abundance. Yes, wealth, joy. And just take one more minute. I receive prosperity, kindness. They're still coming in. So good, so good. And just feel that frequency in your body shift. We've gone on a journey today. Aisha started us off with letting go of these egoic identities that we say, I am this and I am that oftentimes hold us back. They keep us limited and small. They put us in a box, even though we want to be outside of the box. So tapping into this space of pure frequency, pure elemental frequency that's inside of us, it's really, truly who we are. The infinite, the pure potentiality that comes with the quantum field. This is what happens when we tap into frequency. This is what happens when we shift our frequency to truth. This is what happens when we timeline jump into the person that already exists. So just take one moment, take a deep breath in, fill yourself with all these statements and everybody's transmissions from the chat, all this beautiful energy that you can feel collecting in this space is so amazing all over the globe. And just exhale. And one more, inhale and exhale. Maybe give yourself a shake and moving around and just open up. Maybe bring your arms out to the side and just feeling, not intellectualizing, not thinking, oh my gosh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to, hurry up. Just allow yourself to be in this energy and be open to miracles. There's only two ways we can view this world, that nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. And I think today we are collectively choosing that everything is a miracle. Anything is possible for us if we stay in our truth and we stay in our frequency. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you're new here, welcome to our community. This is a space where we play and we share and connect, and all of the people who we show up every week. I love you guys. Mwah. It's so amazing to be here. And yeah, just remember to reach out to whoever invited you here, connect with them. And I'll see you guys next week. Aisha, anything else?
Feel free to unmute yourself and say goodbye. I love the cacophony at the end, and my heart is so filled up. I'm just like, I love you all so much.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Bye. Love you so much.
Sending love to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Mwah.